And it'll be hosted at the Oregon Advanced Computing Institute for Science and Society, which we call OASIS here at the U of O. And this center really will bring IBM's cutting edge enterprise AI technology to campus, create new opportunities for students to train with IBM hardware and software as they prepare for careers in a whole wide variety of fields, and allow University of Oregon faculty to use this technology in their research and to develop new insights into how enterprise AI can be used across a variety of disciplines to accelerate new discoveries and innovations. But I think perhaps the most exciting opportunity here is that this new center will foster new opportunities for industry partners to engage with the university to launch collaborative research projects and develop new applications for this technology. OASIS is one of our leading research centers here at the University of Oregon. It's led by Alan Maloney, who I believe you'll hear from later. And OASIS is really an intellectual leader and home for high power computing here at the U of O. And the Institute has played an integral part in advancing our computational and data science priorities here at the U of O. OASIS's Performance Research Lab, directed by Samir Shendi, has been an especially important contributor to these efforts with the development and research on tuning and analysis utilities, or TAO. I'll let Samir talk about this in more detail later. The work of OASIS is really, and this formation of a new center is really squarely related to major institutional priorities here at the University of Oregon, and really aligns with a number of recent investments that are designed to impact our research, and particularly our collaborative research. The first is our Presidential Data Science Initiative. As we all know, I don't need to tell you all that the analysis of large and varied data sets is really transforming how we understand the world, and being able to do this has become a vital skill across many disciplines and industries. And we really want, through the investments in our data science initiative, for the U of O to be a leader in data science research. We already have a number of very large projects underway in this space, including around natural hazards, prevention science, genomics, and many more. In addition, the Data Science Initiative will educate the next generation of scholars to be able to use big data and address societal problems in many, many different disciplines. And for example, the Data Science Initiative has developed a new undergraduate major in the last couple of years, and is working to develop a number of graduate level and degree and certificate programs, which will really help strengthen workforce and build new graduates who can be who can be your all's workforce in the coming decades. This new center also directly aligns with the goals of the Provost Innovation Initiative, which is expanding the innovation ecosystem on campus and across our region by developing rich partnerships between university, communities, and industry. And building new research and training partnerships exactly like this center. This is what we want to be doing, where we want to be catalyzing these new kinds of relationships. And in this innovation initiative, there's a major emphasis on experiential learning and on building the capacity of students, faculty, and staff to be entrepreneurs and to engage in developing new solutions, business ideas, commercialization, and inventions that address societal need. Again, this center will be squarely helpful for that initiative. And lastly, let me highlight the Phil and Penny Knight campus for accelerating scientific impact. This $1 billion initiative is focused on fast-tracking discoveries into innovations. The Knight campus opened its first world-class facility this past winter and is bringing together interdisciplinary teams of researchers to solve real-world problems, develop new technologies, and launch new enterprises, particularly in the area of biomedical engineering. And I'll just say that we're bringing together in the Knight campus computational folks along with engineers who are building new technologies. And this, I think, also is aligned with what the center is trying to accomplish. So the Center for Enterprise AI Exchange marks another great step forward in University of Oregon's effort to advance the innovation impact of our research and our education missions. We're, again, deeply appreciated for the partnership with and the confidence that IBM is showing in us by we're helping to establish the center, and we're really looking forward to continuing to deepen our engagement with IBM and other industry partners that are eager to join us on the cutting edge of enterprise AI research. Let me stop there and thank you again for the opportunity to engage with you all today, and let me turn it over to the experts who really know deeply about this and from which you'll be able to learn much more today. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cassandra, for the wonderful and very detailed information and what are all the key activities the lab is going to be used. Dr. Dylan Bode, please go ahead and start your presentation.
No, absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Mosley, for those great kind words. I think when you mean experts, you must not be referring to me. I think it's people later beyond me in the agenda who are by far the experts here. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. And I really do appreciate everybody spending time with us here today for something that is so important. I do wish that we could be in the beautiful campus of Eugene, University of Oregon, inaugurating this center. But it's the best that we can do in the environments that we're in. So I'm very excited about just being here with you, and really want to thank and kind of reiterate the thanks that Dr. Mosley shared around the creation of this center. And it is truly a partnership that's needed to advance these types of major changes to technology advances to impact the businesses and society around the world. And it's this great collaboration that is really going to go off and drive towards that. Enterprise AI is going to be pervasive in every aspect and every day of our life. And that, and I use kind of the analogy of sports, of baseball in America, if you're familiar. And I really believe that we're only within the first few pitches of the game around AI. And there is a tremendous amount of ways to go in the game here and set that technology advance. And it's really through partnerships such as this and the creation of this center to allow academic and industrial type of collaborations to drive forward and really set those directions that is needed to move the business forward. And when we really think about the ability to scale and hit these resources, and Dr. Mosley mentioned this, the staffing and other aspects in the industrial perspective and training that next generation of great AI resources and skills and contributors and leaders of the world, there has to be a very strong push for academic and industrial type of collaboration around enterprise AI. And I think University of Oregon is a fantastic example of that with the OASIS that Dr. Mosley talked about, but in all the other influences that is really being drove across the whole academic institution of University of Oregon. And we have great initial collaborations already with Dr. Samir around accelerated computing, and we've shifted our technology focuses tremendously as well. We really believe on infusing AI capabilities directly into the core and of a processor architecture, abstracting out some of those challenges of going to additional devices. And simplifying the use of this. And so we recently launched a brand new product into the marketplace. It's our Power 10 market architecture. And we have embedded those AI capabilities. And this center can really now focus in and around taking those, those capabilities that were, embedded at the nanometer level and now have macroscopic, advances in technology that we can all not only participate in, but observe and see becoming pervasive across the entire marketplace. And we can do this in many ways with the ecosystem that has been partners and driven in partnership with many on this call. And we can really allow enterprises and individuals to experience AI, to instill and distill new insights from these vast data resources that center around data-rich systems such as the Power architecture. And I'm very excited with this center and really allowing it to drive that technology change forward and really infuse AI into the world. And so we're excited about this to bring together researchers and partners and really focus in and around enterprise AI and what we can really do here for society. So thank you all. Looking very much forward to be a key participant with the University of Oregon and many other partners on this and to set that, that agenda that we can all visibly see in the future, of impacting, the major challenges that our society face around AI. So, and technology advances. Thank you. Look forward to today's session, and I'll pass it back to Ganesh.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dylan. Wonderful, details you are given. Thanks for that. Thanks for sharing those info. And definitely, there are like 100+ people are part of this call, and they would have understood everything. And it is going to be a good collaboration. The lab is going to be useful for many people worldwide. As you said, Dr. Samir has been collaborating with us for many years. In last, I would say 5+ years, in all our accelerated computing. Okay, so let's move on. We have Dr. Salman Darwin from UC Berkeley is with us, and Dr. Salman is the leader for corporate innovation worldwide, and he has done lots of open innovation talks and activities around the world. And Dr. Salman, thanks for accepting our invitation, and please go ahead and start your presentation and share your thoughts about the open innovation for AI.
Thank you, Ganesh. It's great to be with you all. I think the reason that Ganesh had me here is because many years ago, several years ago, I taught the first IBM Watson course at UC Berkeley by a grant given by IBM to teach that course. And we applied, we began to understand how AI is very important to students and to come up with a lot of solutions to the world. We worked with Apollo Hospital Group, the largest hospital group in Asia, to see how we can take the doctor's notes and patient records and come up with apps that would create solutions for that great hospital there. So I began to appreciate the value of AI and in solving our healthcare problems and many other problems. And that's where my journey started with IBM in working with AI. And nowadays I work with another project. We have two initiatives for India right now at the moment at the Center for Growth Markets. It's called Smart Village Movement. How do you get the rural people, 3.4 billion people in the world who are tucked away? How can AI also reach them, and how open innovation, which I will describe in a moment, can help do this, and how students, both in India and in the United States, can work together when they have access to resources and platforms, open platforms like this that your center is providing, how we can accelerate solutions to heal the pain points of people. The Smart Village Movement is all about providing digital technology to access to markets for rural people. And that's the Smart Village Movement is an initiative of UC Berkeley, and we employ this, and this will be very useful to us as a university. The other initiative that we have at Berkeley focused on India is Rebuilding India initiative. How do we bring in the manufacturing, smart manufacturing, smart empowered by AI to India, and making India a manufacturing hub in power with China? That's one initiative we're working on with the Indian government, with the central government of India, Niti Aayog. We're also working on a second initiative there on how do you accelerate digital education. And we need platforms like this to accelerate digital education for talent development and skill development for 600 million young people in India who are very aspirational. So they just need access to platforms like what you folks are doing to learn, to get certified, to get tested, and to be placed in jobs. Because the traditional education in India has failed us. It's an old British system. It takes 15 to 20 years for a kid to graduate and really be ready to be in the workforce today. And even then, companies like Infosys and Wipro, they had to retrain them. So these platforms will get them trained and equipped where the need is, so that as the knowledge is flowing, they build their careers on knowledge flows rather than knowledge lakes that become very stale very often. So that is what I do, and I really see a lot of value in what you folks are doing. The third initiative that we're doing in India is last mile connectivity. If India is not online, if you don't have the the billions of people and 3.4 billion people around the planet who are living in rural areas, if you don't bring them online and close the gap, then they can't do trade, they can't do commerce, there's no communication, they cannot really contribute to the GDP of their nation. So I think that's another thing that we're working on. And this AI too, and combined with 5G technology, I think will take us forward in many ways. So I think I applied what you're doing. A little bit about open innovation. How many minutes do I have left there, Ganesh? I have a few more minutes to explain what open innovation is.
Yeah,
Or I'm done.
Please go ahead, Mr. Salman.
Yes. I work for a center, and I work with Professor Henry Chesborough, who is the father of open innovation. And open innovation really simply means, it's not what a lot of people define what open innovation is. Open innovation is not saying, give me all your knowledge, I'm an open person, and I will become rich by it. It is more like the other way. Open innovation, the knowledge that is within you has to flow out to other people, so it populates and other people's business models. And you take the knowledge that you don't have and bring it in. So that is outside in knowledge and inside out knowledge. So knowledge has to flow both ways. And that can only happen in an open innovation environment where AI can really get a lot of data, because the Watson brain, I used to say, is empty unless you fill it. Data is totally useless, unless, data is like oil. It's in the ground. It needs to be first located. It needs to be extracted. It needs to be distilled and purified. It needs to be packaged, and it needs to be through the supply chains, go to the right place where it is consumed ultimately. And that's how data is. And I think AI will have that capacity once those tentacles and the last mile connectivity is all in place. Then the data will be processed in a much more intelligent fashion, so solutions are rendered. So open innovation really means that knowledge has to flow in all directions. We also believe companies, I just explained to you what open innovation is, outside in, inside out. Otherwise, it's totally useless. Knowledge, if it is sitting in your brain or my brain, doesn't do any good unless it flows. Knowledge has to flow. We also believe in what we call outside out. Even though IBM may not be concerned about a lot of things with their own agenda, but by creating ecosystems outside your innovation funnel, and is very, very important, but because you need that ecosystem to support you. You need to create your own foster your own ecosystems. That's outside out knowledge. But there's also inside in knowledge, which means people within a company have to reach across silos and communicate and transfer knowledge one to another. So inside in knowledge. So we have many, many ways by which knowledge has to flow, and AI is very, very important in accelerating that process. Otherwise, we practiced. America is a great country, and what made America great is not open innovation, unfortunately. What made America great over the years is closed innovation, because we held the knowledge we created as a secret, and 70% of the PhD thesis of Berkeley and Stanford were classified as top secret during the war times. But the wars are over, the Cold War, World War I, all those, we can't, we have internet is a plumbing by which knowledge flows very fast. So today's greatness relies on AI-driven open innovation. And that's the economy that we have to work with in the future. And this center is a step in that direction. So God bless you, Ganesh, on your effort, and also the center directors and all the colleagues that joined me today. I think we're looking for a great future. And I hope that AI, with one caution, that falls into the hands of the right people, because AI could also be abused and misused and misdirected also. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Solomon, for the wonderful information about the open innovation and also the projects what you have been doing in India. And also, like I know that you are working with the Prime Minister of India too. Uh, uh, Definitely, there could be a lot of collaborations we can have, and using this lab as a center, many people can get educated also. We are building some courses and all. Definitely, if you stay here for another 30 to 40 minutes, you'll know what are all the things that so we can impact those things and your channel and through your recommendations too. Thank you, Solomon, again. And let's move on to the third session here. It's actually between Dr. Samir and me, but I'd like to invite Dr. Samir to say the key words about what he has been working on. Dr. Samir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ganesan. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
And I would like to thank IBM for all their support, and the University of Oregon and my colleagues in the OS for establishing this Center for Enterprise AI Exchange. I would like to mention a few key points about our collaboration with IBM. With the CEAIX, we have access to key IBM technologies for enterprise computing. These are not typically found in university environments, especially technologies that are very relevant to the enterprise computing world, including the IBM AIX system, the DB2 databases, spectrum scale products, including file servers, file systems, which is known as GPFS. Spectrum scale solutions include the GS4S array that we have, the Red Hat technologies that are now integrated in the IBM portfolio, OpenPOWER systems, and more importantly than the hardware are the experts at IBM that we are able to reach out to and collaborate. We have this lab with an incredible set of computing platforms, ranging from accelerated technologies that are featured on the AC922, IC922, and S924 systems, S924 systems including the IX servers. And we hope to leverage that to develop skills to work with IBM and their collaborators. And this will give an incredible opportunity to students and researchers at the University of Oregon to work on projects. There are two projects in my group at the Performance Research Lab in OSS that contribute to the ecosystem. And these include the Extreme Scale Scientific Software Stack from the Department of Energy, which provides a range of tools in the area of high-performance computing and artificial intelligence and machine learning. And the second is the Tau Performance System. The Tau Performance System aims to deliver a scalable, portable, high-performance evaluation toolkit for HPC and AI ML workloads. So if you have an application that uses TensorFlow or Keras or PyTorch, and you would like to figure out where it's spending its time, how do I optimize this code, then you can use Tau, and without changing anything in your application, you can extract detailed information about the regions of your code that are compute intensive and IO intensive. The Extreme Scale Software Stack aims to deliver a modular, interoperable, and deployable software stack. And it supports HPC and AI/ML software. It includes Tau, but it also includes a range of other tools, including MPI, OpenMPI, and MPitch, as well as compilers from the LLVM, suite. It includes for node level parallelism, COCOS and Raja toolkits from the DOE. PETC, Trilinos are important tools for numerical solution. And also for IO, we have tools like ADIOS2, HDF5, NetCDF. For AI software, we have TensorFlow, PyTorch, Horowad, and we have a key integration with Watson Machine Learning Community Edition from IBM. So Tau supports most HPC and AI platforms from IBM, including Linux. We have recently ported to AIX as well. This includes both the Little Indian as well as the Big Indian PPC64 LE systems. We have always supported the IBM range supercomputers. The Summit and Sierra are shining examples at Oak Ridge National Labs and Lawrence Livermore National Labs. But before that, we have supported the IBM Blue Gene, Q, P, and before that, L systems as well. And we have supported the Big Indian IBM systems as well. Support IBM Excel compilers, Spectrum MPI, IBM MPI, OpenMP runtimes, and provide portable instrumentation, measurement, and analysis utilities. Here's a 3D view of performance data that is shown in Tau's Paraprof profile browser. You can download from this URL. And Tau is bundled along with all these other tools I've mentioned in containers, as well as it allows you to use all these tools for bare metal installs as well. You can download a Singularity container right from the e4s.io webpage for PPC64LE and deploy them on IBM systems. So without having to install all the software, you get one bundle and you can get started and be extremely creative in your pursuits. So we want to leverage on these projects and build a strong collaboration as part of the CEAIX. And I welcome you all to this inauguration today. Thank you. Ganesan?
Thank you, Samir. I know that you got a technology stack that has been extending many ways in supercomputing. I mean, the stack, and now AI, and also a lot of scientific things also you have been leading and like building it also. Amazing thing, more than 10 plus power servers and many System X you have been managing, and you're also part-time and a administrator, and so many support you have been giving to us, giving to our IBM platform, and so many the developers and faculties got into your system and developed many solutions so far. And extending this with the enterprise AI is going to be a game changer, and certainly this is going to help many people in the world. Dr. Solomon definitely will bring in more people to test the center with lots of skills development and all. So thank you, Samir. And I'm going to yeah, thank you. And I'm going to skip my session because of timing. I'm going to invite Alan Maloney, who is your partner with a lot of things from University of Oregon, to say a few words. Dr. Alan.
Yes, thank you, Ganesh. And I'll just be brief to say that we're very happy to have this taking place within inside OASIS, as Dr. Mosley mentioned earlier. Samir and I have been longtime colleagues here at the University of Oregon, and we have really tried to invest our time and energies in making it possible to have the university pursue high performance computing for quite many years, but also more recently orienting our activities to support AI and machine learning here at the University of Oregon. One thing that was not mentioned by Dr. Mosley is that in addition to all the things that she said that are going on at the university, there is an NSF Center for Big Learning that we received, the computer science department, along with a few other universities received some funding from the NSF about 2 or 3 years ago that I think would be a great partner in this new initiative with IBM. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm just really happy to see this happening, and thanks to everybody who invested your time and energy to make it so. Ganeshan?
Thank you, Dr. Alan Maloney. Thank you for all the support, whatever you have been providing along with Dr. Samir. Really, we are all enjoying and innovating a lot of things on the platform, whatever you have to. Thank you. And let's move on. Yeah, the key person behind this lab, Dr. Krishna, Raj Krishnamurthy. Over to you. I don't need to say a few words about you, but it's you. We have been working together on this lab, but Raj, please go ahead and talk about the center, the mission and vision from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Ganesan. So I'm so energized by all the talks that have happened so far. Dr. Mosley, Dr. Baudet, Dr. Maloney, Dr. Samir, and Ganesan, and of course, Dr. Salman Darwin talking about, especially all the 4 facets of innovation. I've read a lot of his work, and it was really nice to hear from him how he thinks about it. And so IBM, as you know, we're a open company. We've prided ourselves in open innovation. We've actually given away patents or open source patents so that we can enable innovation in certain areas. When it comes to certain aspects of AI, such as facial recognition, we have said that we will not participate in facial recognition research. And what we truly believe in is making AI less plutocratic. So we don't want just 4 or 5 companies to benefit from AI. We want to democratize AI, and we want AI to be usable by all the several billion people who live on this planet. And so we do believe in all the 4 models of open innovation that Dr. Darwin talked about, the inside in, the outside in, inside out, and we do try and I would say practice those forms. And so what I'm going to do is take you through some of the details about what the center is going to do. So the first thing is that we call it the Enterprise AI, Enterprise Artificial Intelligence Exchange Center, and the word exchange comes from the fact that we want people to be able to, come here, right? Partners. These are businesses representing various verticals, and be able to develop use cases, around various verticals like, finance or healthcare, as was mentioned, industrial manufacturing. And we believe in cross-pollination because, since the early 2010s, as we got into using more of the contemporary AI methods like neural networks, we've seen that many fields have really benefited from cross-pollination. So a technique becomes useful in one vertical, let's say industrial manufacturing, and then you can now bring it over to, say, financial services or something else, and then benefit from that. So we think that representing businesses from different verticals and kind of mashing them all together, right, in one center will allow this cross-pollination. I think that would really benefit various participants, and also benefit various verticals by the cross-pollination across the verticals. So what I'm going to do is first, I got a few questions from participants asking, like, what do you mean by enterprise AI? Because enterprise AI could mean many things to different people. So I'm going to try and explain that the enterprise AI, what is enterprise AI itself, could be like an hour-long presentation. But so when we got started with like enterprise AI, I would say, the early 2010s, especially around contemporary neural networks, what we noticed was businesses started using AI mostly for the purposes of, let's say, catching bad guys, right? Risk and fraud, anti-money laundering. So driving efficiency so that you could save money for the company. Because if you have, if you expose yourself to risk, or if the fraud happens or there's money laundering, then usually what happens is that you could lose money. And so one of the first use cases for AI was, catching bad guys, right? So a lot of the use cases started with that. And then, with enterprise AI, one thing is that we're not looking at things like consumer AI, right? If you look at consumer AI, that is really about driving engagement with the social media tool. So making sure that, that you generate enough dopamine so that you keep coming back to your cell phones, right? And keep working on those tools. Instead, with enterprise AI, what we're really focused on is the data and the transactions that are coming into businesses, right? Different verticals. How can you use those? How can you use that data? And then how can you act on the transactions to be able to go after, all these use cases that I list here? Many of these are, banking, mostly on the financial services side that I've listed here. But as you can see on the right-hand side, of course, they expand to different verticals as well. Especially in the last 18 months over the pandemic, the digital transformation that's happened, almost 3 to 5 years of digital transformation, a lot more use cases leveraging AI. We have seen our various partners and various customers start using. So the last 18 months has truly been extremely remarkable period where there's been so much of transformation around digital use cases and the use of AI. And this has really impacted a lot of verticals, not just healthcare, but also financial services, any digital business. People were just interacting through, let's say, through chats or through email, and that has expanded onto various other channels. So now you have to put risk and fraud models into different channels so that, when you interact with the business, you can authenticate the user, how the users interacting with the system and various things like that. So let me try and define what we mean by enterprise AI. So I was talking to you about the fact that, this data, right? When you swipe a credit card, when you file a healthcare claim, when you have a mishap on the road or the highway with, say, two cars, collide or strike each other, you're essentially taking a picture and then, filing a claim right from your smartphone, right? All these transactions are coming into a business. So it's what I call the gravity wells, right? So there's a data gravity well because you're now collecting all this data, and some businesses are allowed to collect, let's say, up to 5 to 7 years of data, depending on the country you live in. So this is the data warehouse, right? And so you can now do deep analysis in that data warehouse to look at, how are your various businesses and consumers all, using your services, and what can you do to make that better? And then as these transactions come into the enterprise, there's an opportunity to, for example, use cases like anomaly detection, pre-approvals, right? You want to, get a loan, especially these loan and claim pre-approvals really went up over the last 18 months during the pandemic. So you want to be able to take an AI model and then be able to inference or execute that model within what's called the transaction SLA or the service level agreement. So you might have an SLA saying that I want to do 100,000 transactions a second, less than 1 millisecond. And even though I have a very complex model like BERT large that can take up to 100 milliseconds to execute, you still want to be able to execute that model very quickly because neural networks are very complex computation and you need accelerators. And like Dr. Bode mentioned in the beginning of the call, right, we're still able to do that and meet the SLA. So there's several challenges with respect to leveraging the data that enterprises have, being able to process transactions within those service level agreements, and then and be able to meet the various demands of the business. So the way we look at this is that, first I talked about the real-time transactions. So this is where you really need that real-time capability, right? So I talked about real-time anomaly detection, risk and fraud scoring. And there's the other aspect, which is also time sensitive, is that as you get this fresh data coming in from the transactions, you want to be able to act on it quickly. Over the last 18 months, we saw lots of businesses invest in dynamic price optimization. So if you're like an Amazon user, for example, right, if there's like 1,000 items and then, it goes down to 2 or 3, sometimes, the price of those items could go up because, there's few things and there's more demand. So the price of that naturally goes up. So dynamic price optimization and all these supply chain style analysis really became, hot topics for businesses. And the ability to act on this fresh operational data is going to be very key. And that's another aspect of it that we want to dive in with our partners in the center, right? The real-time side with real-time transaction analytics, also the operational side with fresh data that's coming into the enterprise. How do you act on that fresh data? Because if you don't act on that fresh data, it loses value and you don't have the right insights that actually help you. And then of course we have the applied analytics where you have a lot of data that you store over time. And then how do you get deep insights into that? Because you're doing long-term forecasting, you have to do compliance, right? And all these things that businesses have to do. So let's now sort of, look at what we, the joint UO IBM mission is, right? First, we want to build skills, and these skills are not just for students so that, they can get hired by, the next generation digital business. This is also for our partners. Many of our partners and customers have told us that, because their systems that they're using in production, they don't have capacity there to go and play with data sets, play with models, right? And do all that exploration and experimentation, right? If you go and look at a lot of cloud companies now, there's a VP for experimentation, right? Experimentation and exploration, right? Exponential learning that Dr. Cassandra Mosley mentioned. All these are so critical in this new digital and AI use cases. You want to try things and explore things and apply them and do it quickly, be agile. And then of course, like I talked about, right? Exchange. Develop those, share those, right? Open innovation, cross-pollination across verticals, right? And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And I said with enterprise AI, right, there are lots of technical challenges, right? Model operations, making sure that a model is current. What if the data coming into the model changes and now you have so much of drift in your predictions that the model is not useful anymore? How do you keep continuously learning and training, right? Just like, professional engineers or doctors, right? They get recertified and things like that. A model also has to keep up with the dynamic changing of data. And then all these issues around ethics, that bias and fairness, all these have to be considered, and privacy preserving learning and all these aspects so that, we can be compliant with, all the, so if you look at enterprise AI, the bar is very much higher than the consumer AI you see on your cell phones today, right? The bar for us is very high. And so it is really, really necessary for all of us to come together and then work so that we can be compliant with the needs of the business and then permeate AI into various industries and various verticals, right? The bar is higher than consumer AI. So as I said before, right, of course, we want to tap into the University of Oregon's and the state of Oregon's expertise with students. And of course, the students from other universities can also participate here. What we mean by center partners is this could be an end user, right? Someone who's actually using AI technology to implement a service, implement various things in their organizations, data scientists, AI infrastructure engineers that build out the entire AI as a service. There are software vendors, for example, database. For example, today we have Shay Cater from the DB2 team. IBM DB2 has incorporated AI within the database so that you can do automatic machine learning within the database without having to pull data. It continuously learns as data comes into DB2 using automatic machine learning. And then also as these transactions strike the database, you can do automatic inferencing. So all these databases and various other software products are having AI embedded into them. And then we have our partners like system integrators, Charlie Fordick here, and various consultants as well, representing various aspects of IBM. So for students, of course, we're going to build skills. They can collaborate with partners, opportunities for internships. The center partners, they will explore enterprise AI, be able to bring their use cases from where they work to the center, because they're telling us that we don't have a place to do experimentation. Our systems are being used in production. I can't just go and experiment with open source on a production platform. So you can come here, use your open source tools, and this is a place where you can experiment, explore, and the culture of experimentation, exploration will be fostered here. And then you can share tools and AI use cases. And then, of course, on the research side, right, we want to improve the performance. And that's why the expertise that, Dr. Shende has built with his Tau tool, right, from the supercomputing space, we want to bring it to enterprise systems, right? We have done this. So we have a library called ESSL, which powers the top 3 supercomputers, in the top 500 today. We've taken the ESSL IBM library, right? and brought it over to our enterprise server, right? So now our enterprise servers run a supercomputing library. So we wanted to bring Tau, which is known in the supercomputing arena, into enterprise systems so we can then do this minute real-time inferencing and be able to make sure that you were meeting these SLAs and do that precisely and give data scientists the right tools so we can do that analysis, which can get into 400, 500 nanoseconds, right, that range. So we need these supercomputing tools to be applied to the real-time enterprise inferencing problem. And then I talked about these various other emerging technical challenges that are best done with researchers and various participants in the industry. So hopefully I gave you an insight into what, the various personas and the groups of people that will be associated with the center. We think Oregon is going to be the right place with Dr. Maloney and his expertise with, the big data learning, and Dr. Shende, who's world-renowned for his work with his performance research lab and the impact that the Tau tool has had on the supercomputing world. We want to bring it into the enterprise systems world. So hopefully I've given you the lay of the land. This is what we're going to do. I know we've cast a really wide net, but we think that as partners bring in the use cases from various verticals, we're able to focus on a key set of items. And from time to time, we'll be having these challenges, right? We'll say, okay, we want to solve this problem. How do we wrap our mind around one of the big problems that the industry is tackling now is model operations, right? How do you do CI/CD for these models? And we'll have a challenge and see how folks can, work together and come up with a solution and then apply it to healthcare and financial services and, things like that. So we'll try and keep doing these challenges. We'll have workshops. Ganesh's great at organizing those. So we'll have these checkpoints where we'll, keep meeting and, bring folks together. So this is a kickoff, but we'll keep meeting from time to time and do a sort of a state of the union on, where we are with all this stuff. So hopefully I've given you a more nuts and bolts introduction to what we intend to do here and the challenges that face us. And I think it's really going to be exciting, right? The bar is high for enterprise AI, right? It's not consumer AI. The bar is very high for enterprise AI, and we're going to work together to make sure we meet that bar that the industry is expecting from us. So thank you, and I hand it back to Ganesh.
Thank you, Raj. You got a lot of energy, and certainly, definitely we can facilitate many developers in the form of students, partners, and researchers to be part of this lab. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Raj, for the wonderful support. And also, you are the man behind, the lab and, a lot of activities. Thank you very much for all the support you have given on this. And let's move on to the next session. The presenters from the real enterprise world. Hold on. This is actually going to be like, given by, the enterprise company called Werner, a transportation industry. And the Peter Kim and the Shiva Kumar is going to share their experiences on enterprise AI exploration with the DB2 and power systems. They have been working with our power system for many years. Since 20 years back, I was talking to Shiva Kumar at IBM. He is former IBM too. I welcome both Peter Kim and Shiva Kumar to address the audience here. Thank you. Over to you, Peter and Shiva.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Peter Kim, and I'm the senior manager of the database administration team at Werner Enterprises. So we have a fair footprint of DB2 that supports a lot of our on-premise applications. And basically, I think the interesting challenge for the database team is that we have a lot of data, and we just need to make the best use of it that we can. And obviously AI is just it's obviously not a new technology, but it's one where I think the most interesting part is we have not really done a lot of exploration on the different ways that we can collect the data and the different methodologies we can implement. So Siva has done a great job at the beginning, about a month ago, where he did research on his end to see how the DB2 product can actually handle basically all the processes. And he did provide a very good explanation of how basically the interesting challenge around AI and to implement that and to get the information that you're looking for, the insights that you're trying to discover, is that it involves many different processes. So it's really interesting to see that through the DB2 technology that we can basically do that exploration in a very consolidated place where we have all the data present and we have a lot of the tools available to us. So I will leave the rest of the presentation to Siva.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Yeah. Thanks, Peter and Ganesh, for organizing this event. And thanks to Raj. I mean, Raj, you pretty much covered on that database, in-database machine learning, and that's exactly we are kind of focusing on in forthcoming implementation. And I just want to share a small presentation here. 1 second. Let me share. Okay. Can I see the screen? Or...
Yes, sure.
Okay. All right. So the thought process, guys, I mean, as Peter mentioned, that ours is pretty, we have a huge DB2 environment. We have a data warehouse, and we get data from our trucks continuously ingesting into a warehouse, and we are kind of continuing reporting through the data. And as we know that, it's just a small footprint. Like we have 66% of data sitting in our RDBMS relational database, right? We're sitting there, and we are consuming for reporting process, right? And one of the challenges what we went through is this is the traditional approach we are doing for a machine learning process. With the data, what we are pulling from RDBMS, we are sending the data to collect through a Kafka process, sending it to a Spark, and build a map pod, right? There's a JSON database. And then we will send the data for an analysis and, to go through multiple modeling process. So this is the traditional process we are going through. And interestingly, our database DB2 version is running on 11.1. And way back when we heard about when DB2 11.5 came in, we came to know about the in-database machine learning. And we are so excited, right? I mean, the thought process, instead of going through all these processes, if you look at this scenario, that's exactly as Raj mentioned. So the data is sitting there, 60% of the data is sitting there. And as Peter mentioned, our entire data warehouse is running on DB2 11.1 and sitting there, right? I mean, for the reporting purpose. Now, if you're able to bring 11.5, right, DB2 11.5 into picture, and we can build in database machine learning. So that's the process we used. I did some testing, as Peter mentioned, during the analysis, and thanks to, again, Ganesh and Samir for allowing us to use the server, the Linux server on Oregon. And we used the server to do some benchmark tests for some of the data. And we did some predictive analysis for like a test data, right? Now, with this 11.5, we have a lot of things we can do. And we would like to see this, how the power servers, which we are going to get, will help us in predicting some of the challenges what we have in industry. So if you look at this scenario, this is what we are trying to do. I mean, so this is our truck, right? As you know that, as Peter mentioned, we have like 8,500 trucks, 100 trucks going around the USA, and we are one of the major carriers in Midwest, and we are getting a bunch of the sensor data coming out from trucks. And we want to store those sensor information into the DB, directly feeding to database, and report out of it, and do some predictive analysis on a lot of engine failures, maintenance remainders, and tire tread, and a lot of things. We can do a lot of things here. And as I mentioned, when the truck is going on the road, we can get the data streaming continuously into this, ingesting into the database. And we want to do more, predictive analysis based on the data, what we're getting. And this data is, we're getting millions and millions of data, from the sensor information. And the challenges, right? These are some of the challenges we can do in the predictive modeling in the logistic industries. So the thought process is how long the truck can run without any maintenance, right? The truck is going on the road. And as we receive the data through sensor information, and continuously we analyze and predict, and we can tell how long the truck can go without any maintenance, or if there is any maintenance requirement coming, we can immediately take the truck, divert to the maintenance shop instead of causing an accident or stopping in between the road or a highway, right? That's the thought process. And we want to see, based on the driver information, we have almost 11 to 12,000 drivers working for us. And we want to make sure that, we know that there's autonomic truck is coming, right? There's no driverless trucks coming up in future. But in the meantime, we have to still go with the drivers, and we want to predict based on we always go through the driver turnover, right? We want to see how many drivers can quit in the next 30 days, right? If you have those kind of predictive process we have, it will help us a lot in hiring and retaining the drivers in our industry. And company turnover in future, what's going to be in future based on the record what we have. And like accident, we are spending millions and millions of dollars, right? So with this sensor data, if we're able to build a predictive modeling for accident prevention, that will be a big win for us. And battery life, I'm just throwing a point of battery life. You can immediately, based on the battery information, you can say that trucks, again, this is part of the preventive maintenance we can do. So what I'm showing is these things we kind of going through the process, and the tools what we are currently using is pretty elaborative, and it's a time-consuming process. And as I said, that DB2 supports 11.5 supports in-memory database. We want to utilize the feature and see how we can progress and in future with the AI and machine learning and databases. So that's pretty much from our end. And Peter, you want to add anything? Just a panel. Don't add anything.
No, just as a sum up, Siva, thank you for that presentation. So, Siva's doing research on the data that we have, and really just digging into just what capabilities DB2 has as far as being able to implement AI and do that part, just strictly isolated on the database server. So that's the really interesting research that we're currently conducting. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And over to you, Ganesh.
Thank you, Peter Kim, as well as Shiva, for the wonderful presentation, and also sharing your experiences using IBM DB2 as well as AIX and power systems. It's really amazing, and I do know that your team has got a lot of data, and definitely we can innovate a lot with the data, and certainly your passion to work on innovation is also much appreciated, and worldwide we can interact and create a kind of a technology feast for them to learn about AIX, DB2, Enterprise AI, and many more things on IBM Power Systems. Thank you very much, Shiva and Peter, for the wonderful presentation, and also time you have been spending on the IBM systems. Thank you. Let's move on to the next session here, and I'm really apologizing. We are right now 3 minutes over the time, but we will cover it up actually, because we do have very good talks in next 10 to 20 minutes. I welcome Rashid from GBM to talk about data and AI, the Middle East perspective. Rashid, over to you.
Hey, hi. Thank you, Ganeshan. Am I audible now?
Yes, Rashid, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So we are GBM, located in Dubai, Middle East. We are partner of IBM. Let me just enlarge put it in presentation mode. 1 second. Okay. So GBM is a IT company here in Dubai, UAE, United Arab Emirates. We have branches all over in Middle East, including Qatar, Oman, and Saudi is a separate branch. They have their own company called SBM. Otherwise, apart from Saudi, we have branches all over in Dubai, in the Middle East. So we are about 33 years old company in Middle East, and I'm here in Dubai, GBM, for more than around 15 years. So what we have done recently, we have regrouped our various line of business to meet our customer requirement. Our first primary goal is to help customer to make them success in their digital journey. And hence we have grouped ourselves into multiple group line of businesses in multiple groups. So we have digital infrastructure solution, we have a digital business solution, security solution, hybrid IT cloud services, technology support services, managed services. We also have a education department under learning services. So I'm part of digital business solution. I'm handling power servers and storage. So these are some of our large customer. Like for example, we have Emaar developer who has built the tallest building in the world, which is located in Dubai. And we also have other customers like, for example, Dubai Police, where we have implemented artificial intelligence solution. And with help of IBM and many other people, we have deployed a successful solution for Dubai Police, where all the roads on the Dubai are fully monitored by AI, right from the violation detection to the scorecard of each driver. So this is a wonderful solution we have deployed here in the Middle East. We also have the large customers, banks. We have retail sector. We have Emirates Airline, which is one of the leading airlines in the Middle East. So all of these customers have power servers and storage, IBM storage. We also have deployed AI solution in RTA, road and transport solution, where we are doing a lot of we have Dubai Metro, Dubai Bus, Dubai taxis, where we have connected all of them together using artificial intelligence solution to get the exact location and the timings of the vehicle, of the Dubai taxis and Dubai metros. So having said that, we are working with multiple artificial intelligence solution for customers, and we are depending on IBM technology, AC922 and IC922 servers. So in the Unix market share, according to IDC, United Arab Emirates has a business potential of around $4.3 billion in 2020, which this year we can see $5.27 billion. And accordingly, you can see the Unix market is shrinking, but although we have a lot of potential. So we are also glad to have a very consistent roadmap from IBM. If you go back to time of Power 8 into 2014, and then we got Power 8 Plus, then we got Power 9 in 2017, and 2020 we got Power 9 Plus, and now we have Power 10 launched this month. So we are very glad. We are heavily depending on IBM technology to make this customer successful implementation here in Dubai. So these are some of the sales play we are going to do for our customers. One is refreshing the existing Power 7 and Power 8 to Power 10 servers. Power 7 is already end of life, but we have a lot of customers using Power 8. So we are looking forward to migrate them to Power 10. And also we have Oracle workload consolidation. This is Oracle. Most of the customers here are running Oracle database on IBM Power servers. So now since Power 10 is launched, we are looking forward to many more customers to come forward and move them to Power 10 servers. Also, we have very huge footprint on SAP HANA on IBM Power servers. The Power servers are very highly optimized to run SAP HANA. And hence, a lot of customers are interested to move to Power for HANA implementation. We are also looking for Hadoop and data lake workload on Power servers. Application modernization, we are depending on OCP, Oracle's OpenShift platform, and also IBM Cloud Paks. AI, we are heavily depending on H2O platform. The H2O runs superb on IBM Power servers. We have seen the performance, and we are very happy, and we are pushing H2O on IBM Power servers. Also, SaaS workload, open source databases are also very optimized on IBM Power servers. So the new server which is launched now is Power 1080 server, which the focus of this product is to respond to faster business demand, protect data from core to cloud. So it has complete encryption built in the server itself, transparent memory encryption, support for quantum safe cryptography. So this is going to be very, very secure because there is not much quantum cryptography available outside. I think IBM sold a few quantum computers. So this is highly secure machine, and that's why we are promoting this machine here in Dubai. Streamline insight and automation, maximize availability and reliability. The RAS feature of IBM Power Server is unmatched. No competition can give such a high RAS. RAS is the reliability, availability, and serviceability features of IBM Power Servers. So now we have launched Power 1080 servers, and the next quarter, IBM is planning to launch the scale-out server and enterprise mid-range server. So these are some of the open databases available for IBM Power servers. So a lot of customers are now looking for open database. They want to come out of proprietary database from vendor and go towards open database. And the performance of open databases on IBM server is extremely good. So we have a few solutions deployed here, and we are extremely happy with the solution. So there are databases like MongoDB, Enterprise DB, Cassandra. All this is available on IBM Power servers. Now coming back to the inference, which Raj also mentioned, that the inference performance is so important. And this IBM Power 10 technology server has a special chip design, Matrix Maths Accelerator, which is MMA, which increases your performance to 5 times of your inferencing on IBM. Sorry, one second. Yeah, the inferencing performance is 5 times higher than any other server. So you can imagine, if your workload is running on IBM Power servers, and since I mentioned that a lot of Oracle customer or DB2 customers running on IBM Power servers, so they don't have to move the data, take the data outside. The data is running right inside the data center, and it can give you 5 times performance for inferencing. So for example, if you have some prediction and you need the prediction to be made, and you need the data, so now data copy is residing right in the main server, where you can do the inferencing also. So you don't have to maintain the duplicate copy of your data or take the data outside for inferencing. So this is very useful for the customer who wants to deploy AI solution right inside the data center, very close to their data. So as I mentioned, in this region, a lot of our customers are running Oracle database on IBM Power servers. And there is a very beautiful white paper written by IBM. And this is a link where it talks about how the migration path from Oracle 11G to 19C. So this is a very beautiful white paper written by IBM. And we are going to use this and propose a migration to IBM Power 10 servers. There is a SaaS workload, which is also which runs beautifully on IBM server. Sorry, yeah. So if you see the big data, we have few customers with IBM Big Data, and IBM has a very good relationship with the Hortonworks in a few years back, which is now Cloudera company, and we have very good relation with them, and we are working on a couple of proposals to deploy Cloudera solution on IBM Power servers. And Power servers runs beautifully with the IBM storage, which is elastic storage. So we have a very good combination of Power Server with elastic storage for AI enterprise solution. Also, we have seen that people who wants to run their workload on the cloud, 67% of enterprise workload run on public and private cloud implementation. What we have also noticed, some of the customers report repatriating some workload to public cloud from public cloud. So some customers are moving back to a private cloud kind of a configuration, and in such a case, IBM Power Server 10 is a perfect reason to deploy this workload on IBM Power Server, and this is what we are planning to do in the future. So with this, I would like to thank you, and also take this opportunity to thank Mr. Ganeshan for the new lab, University of Oregon. Thank you, Ganeshan.
Thank you, Rashid, for the wonderful presentation. And certainly, I appreciate you have a lot of technologies and you have a lot of customers using our power systems. And with you, I respect that, and thanks for sharing the valuable information. And these are all very important. And I welcome, we all welcome you to be part of the lab and collaborate and innovate. Thank you again. And let's move on to the next presenter. Next session here. It's going to be from our tech data, our partner tech data, Charles Fortick. He's going to be sharing his experience along with one of his partners about AI POC to production, proof of concept to production. That's an interesting topic. Charles, please go ahead and start your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. This is exciting, bringing enterprise servers into the AI world. When you invited me, I said this is going to be fantastic. Could you please stop sharing so we can share our slide deck here? Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at the list of presenters here today, and it looks like I've crossed paths and worked with many of you guys, and I'm looking forward to continuing that. We'd like to share our slide deck here, if we could, please.
Oh, hold on, Rashid, can you come out from the presentation mode, Rashid?
Yes, just a minute. I'll just stop it, okay?
Thank you.
One second.
Okay. Yeah, what I'll do is I would like to. We have a partner that I'd like to bring in. Oh, by the way, yes, I'm formerly with Tech Data. On September 1st, Tech Data and distributor Synnex merged, and we are now called TD Synnex. We are IBM's largest distributor, and we're excited about that. And I'd like to bring on one of our key partners in AI. I've worked with them. They do actually have an Oracle connect or an Oregon connection. It's Chris Bogan from Mark III Systems. He's going to present and let you guys know what they do. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for making the time here today. So, like Charlie mentioned, I'm Chris Bogan with Mark III Systems. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much for the time. Actually, Oregon, kind of a sweet spot in all of our hearts. We actually have one of our data scientists is up in the Oregon area. So great to get to hear that. And got a couple of Oregon alumni on staff here as well. So yeah, thank you again for the time. So really from our perspective here for the AI POC to production, like Charlie mentioned, we do this with a number of universities, actually hosted our very first hackathon right at about 5 years ago with one of the University of Texas folks. And really, it was kind of one of those eye-opening experiences where we actually got to see some of the silos actually being broken down within the individual organization. And that was particularly powerful for the, actually, it says my screen sharing is paused. So bear with me just a second. Let me troubleshoot this real quick. How about now? Can y'all still see it?
Yes. Go
AI
ahead,
POC to
please.
production?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, great. So really kind of the focus there was all around how do you kind of integrate the entire stack? And we kind of adopted the term full stack. It's really a development term, but it really kind of fits for what we're talking about here. So it's really taking those different disciplines from the end user, which is, you know, the research scientist, the PI, them being able to host their lab, host the applications, and be able to kind of manage that with the same level of enterprise software vigor that you would be able to see with kind of the more prepackaged applications. So we kind of noticed this as a growing trend a number of years ago and actually built a team around it. And what that's actually turned into is, from the IBM perspective, we have darn near every IBM product that is available, both hardware and software. We do have the full software stack. So I know you all had a number of pieces, including DB2 and some of the other Spectrum portfolio discussed earlier. We actually have an integration center and an innovation center that actually allows you to be able to use those, be able to actually build them. We build customized material from an education perspective. So actually being able to educate your DevOps teams, also being able to educate your research scientists, as well as being able to educate the IT teams that support those types of workloads, because they are very different from kind of the stereotypical IT organizational workloads. So that's really kind of the key thing from the Mark III perspective that we think kind of separates us from some of the other folks that are out there, is real live data scientists that are doing real live data science work day in and day out, DevOps teams that are very, very active in the open source community. I think we're one of the very few organizations that actually knows how to roll open source Kubernetes and be able to do it on more or less a regular basis. Huge amount of investment and engagement on the Red Hat side as well. I know you all have kind of heard about the IBM purchase of Red Hat. So being able to really kind of have that level of Kubernetes expertise, having the data science expertise, and then building customized education sessions is really kind of a key area for us. In addition, project continuity is a big thing for us. So as you look at that, we have a number of folks on our team that have been working with their customers well over a decade. That's actually kind of the norm for Mark III, which I think is a little bit unique these days. So as you start that engagement from the Mark III and IBM perspective, you'll definitely kind of have that level of continuity. Now, what we basically do from the AI journey itself. So again, I mentioned we have DevOps talent. We have real life developers that write code on a regular basis. They are regular contributors to GitHub. We're on a number of the IBM technical forums as well. We actually have just over half a dozen IBM Champions. And those of you who are not familiar with the IBM Champion program, it's IBM's highest technical honor for a non-IBM employee. So we have a number of those folks. So one of them is our lead data scientist that's based up just outside of Portland. Then a number of developers, number of data scientists, as well as a number of our data center engineers are also IBM Champions. So what that basically means to you all is we have those education series. So the AI machine learning education series, built them into individual modules. They're built as kind of kickstart modules. They can be aimed either at your research scientists, your PIs, your specific organizations, as well as your DevOps teams, as well as your IT support teams. So tremendously powerful there. We do a lot of the cross-functional workshops. So the idea there is actually being able to break down some of the silos within individual organizations, get different departments working with one another. One of the customers that we've done this with, actually up in Oregon, one of the big things for them was really being able to say, hey, how do I go get some of these other folks in a different department to engage here? We don't know, how to be able to get access to this type of data. Here's what we want to try to do. We're trying to figure out how to foster that kind of innovation. You can do that with workshops. We also host a number of hackathons throughout the year. We have kind of a bit of a recipe there that includes funding for the hackathons. We manage the logistics, our data scientists kind of proctor the hackathons, and then you all as an organization get to kind of come up with what the different targets are for those hackathons. desired outcomes, the problems that people are working on. We've seen anything from the most recent hackathon was actually a competition between several groups. We're able to do them both remote as well as in person. We've just basically kind of adopted that mentality post-COVID for the remote sessions. If we get to the point where we can go back to doing them in person, we've got that recipe built as well. And then from those hackathons, you also still have full access to like the tutorials as well as some of the co-building seminars. So as you look at that, it's really kind of one of those, you look at some of the education that's out on Kubernetes or on some of these individual pipelines, it can get really challenging to be able to find resources who can do that. That's really kind of one of those areas that we help from the research and the department head's perspective. In addition, on the DevOps side, so this would be kind of for the folks that manage the high performance compute environments, updates on ML operations and platforms. We've seen a tremendous amount of maturity growing in the different platforms, just even over the past year and a half. There's new players to the table. There are folks that are actually coming out of startup mode. So really, really powerful there. Very, very familiar with the container architecture. So again, the Kubernetes expertise. We are a Docker consulting partner. We do a tremendous amount with Scilabs, who actually builds the Singularity containers. They actually host and do the testing on their Power-based containers in the Innovation Center that I mentioned earlier. So any of those kind of connections that would be helpful to you all, happy to work with you there. And again, they do those certifications in our lab. So we're very close with not only their organization, but also their development team. Cluster managers and schedulers. So, LSF is one of the premier cluster managers that are out there. We actually have that running in our innovation center. So again, kind of one of those where we're really kind of a partner to help you kind of build out the architecture that you're looking for from an HPC environment, as well as making sure that you've got kind of that continuous education, you've got kind of that continuous support after you set up the compute environment, because you will see people making pretty rapid changes, which is a good thing. That's what you want. That's what happens with innovation, but it's how do you really support those innovators at scale? One piece here that I thought might be kind of helpful, the touch of an eye chart, we can kind of dive in any place that you all would like in terms of a follow-up session. But the idea here is really just a case study that we did with a large children's research organization. And the whole idea here is each of these parts are individual entry points. So this one in particular, we started with a hackathon because they wanted to try to figure out what people wanted to build. They used that as the way to be able to identify the pipelines that they wanted to build a proof of concept around. And then that's actually going into phase 2 now, which is the first stage of production. And then that's actually going to grow into phase 3, where it's going to be adopted across individual departments. So again, the whole idea here is half of it is the technology. The other half is the culture and the support organization that you build around the HPC clusters, how you actually create that level of discipline for AI development. And it's not really discipline in the sense of kind of that standard IT operational discipline. It's really discipline around how do you manage individual containers and how do you manage the experience for those research scientists. So that's kind of what you'll see here. You see it start from the compute platforms as well, the AI education series that we talked about, and then the pilot, the rollouts that go with that, and then being able to onboard the researchers. So again, big key area there is how do you educate those researchers, make that something that's repeatable so people can get the education that they need in an on-demand type of a fashion. So you get, a new research scientist that comes in and joins, or a new person that's switching departments. How do they go get the education they need to be able to leverage the HPC technology that's on site without having to go actually send an individual person to be able to go help spool them up? So again, you can kind of enter this however you would like, but really this is kind of one of those recipes of success that we've seen quite a bit. Also here at the bottom, just kind of called out some of the different workloads that people have been using throughout these different technologies. This one in particular was this Children's Research Hospital. We see this relatively similar across different universities. But the idea is all of these are running on kind of that same cluster with that same methodology and the same access allowances for the individual users. And then they have the ability to actually be able to manage those data points in a really seamless way. So incredibly powerful there. And of course, as you heard kind of before with Power 10 coming out, there's that much more capability that will be coming. So really, really exciting there. And then last, but certainly not least, this tends to be one of the areas where someone wants to do at least part of this education series to try to identify some of those users that would be the most apt to leverage the high performance compute environment that's being built, and really being able to use that as kind of a stepping stone to say, here are the workflows that we need to have included, get those in, get them stood up, get a really positive researcher experience, then start recruiting additional researchers. And then you kind of create that virtuous cycle in and of itself, where you then go identify additional pipelines that you want to integrate into the environment. It grows, then it grows to an additional department. As an example, the folks that we did that very first hackathon with, they started with 2 departments, and just this past month, they actually added their 28th department, and they're up over 50 petabytes worth of storage now. They've got hundreds of users and very, very high user satisfaction scores, which is kind of the way that they build out their methodology. So kind of a lot in a short amount of time. Happy to answer any questions, but just wanted you to know that this is definitely one of the tools in your toolkit. Delighted to work with you all. Thank you all again for the time and the opportunity to get to talk with you. And yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles and Chris. I think a lot of people, would have got a lot of information about your organization, and there are a lot of AI, ML related education series happening in your lab, and as well as you are inviting, you are also doing hackathon. That's a good one too. I've been engaging many students worldwide, in the hackathon too. So definitely there are a lot of opportunities to collaborate, and hopefully, we'll get connected more and more and see how we can collaborate on power systems. Thank you very much, Charles.
Wonderful.
And Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let's move on to the final session here. I know we are running out of time. I really apologize. I'd like to invite Tim Hill and CEO Jadhav to talk about the Power 10 optimized AI tools and frameworks. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And see my screen, I assume.
Yeah.
I'm Tim Hill with Rocket Software. I'm located in Austin, Texas. I've got engineering responsibility for Rocket's IBM channel products on Power. And Rocket actually has over 100, well over 100 products with IBM across Z and Power. And we're really excited to, again, be partnering this time to provide Rocket support for the open source cognitive environment packages on Power. Also on the call from Rocket Software is Suyog Jadhav in Pune. He leads our team that maintains the Conda channels, the Docker registry, the Helm repo, the community forum, everything to provide MMA optimized binaries for Power 10, which will also work with CPU only P9s, and will provide the Nvidia operator for using OpenShift Kubernetes on P9 with the GPU, AC922, IC922 type configurations. So I'll turn it over to Suyog now, and he'll talk for about 2 or 3 minutes only about the bills, but I just wanted to say a quick hello and offer another voice of congratulations on the inauguration of this new AI lab. So over to you, Suyog.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, please move to slide 3. Yeah, so welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. I know it's late, but I feel very honored to be part of this august company. And in terms of our Rocket Software offering, we are offering two things. The Rocket C, which is the OpenCE packages optimized for power, specifically Power 10. As you heard earlier, that the Power 10 now gives the matrix multiplication assist optimization. There are many on-chip opcode integrated. The packages we are providing for Rocket C, which was earlier the WMLC converted to OpenCE from IBM, as Raj mentioned that IBM is opening up many technologies for open innovation. So we are building OpenCE for power. It includes Power 9 CPU only build. It includes Power 10 MMA optimized build, and soon Power 9 GPU build also. So using Rocket C, you can run all your AI/ML workload using TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, Onyx, and variety of other packages. That is, in short, what Rocket C does. All the Rocket C packages are available as a Rocket C Conda channel from anaconda.org, and you can install it by visiting this and following the instructions. As I said, the main USP is the Power 10 MMA optimization. So all the TensorFlow build and PyTorch packages that you install from Rocket C will see a lot of improvement, as earlier discussed in the call also. Moving to the second offering, this is Nvidia GPU Operator. So for those who don't know, when you have a GPU as a part of OpenShift or Kubernetes cluster, some of the nodes may have GPU, some of the nodes may not have GPU. And using GPU driver, CUDA, all that software stack from NVIDIA becomes a difficulty within the cluster. So NVIDIA offers this NVIDIA GPU Operator, which takes care of all the NVIDIA software components, how to get them up, how to mark them available for all the AI/ML workload. So we are providing that same GPU operator for the power systems. So all these AC920T, IC922, you can use their GPU from the OpenShift cluster using this GPU operator. The link is mentioned. The install instructions are part of that link. We would be happy to help in any setup related issue. We have added the email contact and all the links here. So thank you again for the opportunity. We are very excited to be part of this AI/ML journey with IBM and with all you wonderful folks. Thanks again.
And thank you, Ganesh and Raj, for allowing us to participate in this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for providing us the details about all the products and the features your company has been having, and also power systems. That's a very important one. Really, it's critical for a lot of customers too. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for your time too. And yeah, I just want to say, we have, I'm sure, we have been fortunate to have a, yeah, Raj, you want to say a few words here?
I know. I just wanted to put this up so that people, know that there's, various experts, and maybe you want to add to the power systems hardware expertise, even Samir, because it looks like he's installed a server by himself. So he also now has, subject matter expertise on power systems hardware. Now, I just wanted to put this up so that people know, the various areas and the various experts available for those various areas.
Yeah, and also we do have a Slack channel created today, and please, you all welcome to be part of the Slack channel and collaborate with us. And that's a way, you can get access to the system and all, and you can make a request, and we will certainly help you out on that. And I think as Raj initiated here, there are a lot of good technology people are there, and where to go and how to reach them out. Probably we can add them in Slack channel too to help out, all kinds of, the AI related collaboration here. And and I'm sure we have been very fortunate to have a renowned identity from academics, enterprise partners, and all other areas too. Even I see some of the the banking leaders also join. I know key leaders, and I don't want to name them, but it's our pleasure to have you all here, and I'm very thankful to the entire participants as well as the presenters of this inauguration. Do reach us out for all your enterprise AI requirements for education and building innovative solutions. Now the lab is inaugurated. Students, researchers, and enterprise developers and innovators can join the lab and collaborate. We all welcome you for that collaboration. The big C is very important here. And with this, I conclude the session and see you all in the upcoming workshop, webinar, and innovative work, and many more collaborations too. See you all, and stay tuned. And anybody else want to say to the audience here? Otherwise, we can close the session.
Thank you very much, Ganesan, and you're all welcome. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for all the participants and presenters. Wish you all the best. I'm closing the session now. Thank you.